cut a hole in the cabinet and drop the sink down. Are you expecting anybody else?
I don't think so.
Should sit up.
I know Troy's not gonna be.
Yeah, Troy and Dan are not gonna be here.
Dan's not gonna be here either.
And I think Gina's probably not here, Jerry's probably not feeling all that well. So it might be just a four, but
So we just barely have a forum.
we just barely have a four.
Johnny, do you want to take notes? Just Chris is in his truck broke down. He's in West Bend, he can't get here. That's what he was just calling me about. Or do you want to take notes? I need to
Try.
no, just whatever we say. Anything about anything there, just- It's up to you guys. I can't take notes and run the meeting at fair enough.
Yeah, right, I tried that already, that's like running a committee meeting.
I know.
I'll do what I can.
Do we use your notepad?
I should be okay.
Cause Michelle will have the recording.
Right, and that's why I'm just happy to.
Yeah.
Do it this way.
It's nice to have a couple of odds notes here and there and whatever. Like who made the motion and who seconded it, whatever, sometimes you don't hear that on tape. Okay. They don't have to be extensive, Michelle, I go through the rest of it too.
It's kind of irritating because Dan called me specifically and said that he was coming,
Yeah.
so. What would you give that?
Okay. Yeah, he's not coming.
He said he was going to come.
Oh, okay. Well,
That's why he called me about it. At least.
Well, that would give us five. We can do four little big things.
We're gonna have to.
So just bigger feel a little bit.
Okay. Should we rock and roll? You ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, it is 7:02, so we will call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome, everybody. I will remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded, both for the recording of minutes for our clerk later to take a look at them, and also for anybody that,
Call the roll, then should get on the tape.
yeah, we'll call the roll in just a second here. Why don't we do that? It's not on it, but let's go ahead.
I'm Blake Bubin.
Dan Gerke,
On the right.
Jerry Jack.
Jerry Jock. All right. Seeing we do have a quorum, we will continue. Hold on one moment.
Have a jack of all trades, you know.
All right, sorry about that. I saw that our administrator happened to be attending via Zoom, so I wanted to make sure that he was able to log in. Chris, I think you can hear us, correct?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, excellent. Hello.
Thanks.
All right, having a quorum, as I said, we'll move on. The first item on the agenda is a public hearing for a zoning change, reaction to the zoning change of parcel number 090500122051. Oh, good point. Sorry. So we're getting all over them. Let's do the consent agenda first, why don't we?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
All right, I have a motion and I have a second. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now we'll move on to that public hearing. Again, it's for parcel number 090500122051 from A1 General Agricultural to I1 Institution. So I welcome anybody that might be here to speak on that item. Just step up the microphone. Unless you have nothing to say. Okay.
That we need to expand on our existing one.
All right.
This seems to be the best fit area on the property.
Sounds good to me. All right, any other takers?
I'm sorry, what's your name, sir?
Tom Hollis,
Thank you,
trustee.
thank you.
All right. If there's no other comments, I think we would be in order to close the public hearing.
A motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll take the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And then we have discussion and possible recommendation to the village board of trustees for the rezoning of said parcel. For any discussion amongst the group?
Yeah, I think we did that all last week.
I think you're correct.
Last year. I will make a motion to recommend that the village board approve the rezoning of a portion of parcel number 0905001220051 from A1 General Ag to I1 Institutional.
I second.
All right. I have a motion and a second. Any questions, concerns? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So now we'll move on, that'll move on to the village board and for discussion and action. I believe that'll be on the next agenda, and then after that, we will have the vote and let you know. Awesome. Yep, all right. Next, we have an action to set a public hearing. And this is a discussion and possible action to set the public hearing and comment on reaction to a proposed change to chapter 306 of our ordinances in floodplain management of the village's code of ordinances. Chris, did you want to speak on this, or do you want me to just kind of talk about where we're at and all that good stuff?
I can touch on it quick if you like.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and do that? We're gonna be real quiet so we can hear you.
Sure. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
So this is a requirement set forth by the federal government and then through each of the state governments through the DNR to update our floodplain zoning. Our specific ordinance on floodplain zoning has not been updated in quite some time. So again, they're putting this requirement on us. The language that you see before you has to be adopted in that language. The only real policy question is if a unconforming structure were to get destroyed due to a flood because it's in a flood zone, the policy question before you all would be, would you allow them to build back in the unconforming way, or would you want them to build back based off of new standards or whatever your code would allow? The recommendation from pretty much everybody is to allow them to build back with the new standards in order to hopefully prohibit them from having a destroyed building once again. So if you're okay with that, that's how the ordinance currently is read, and your next action would be to set a public hearing for your next meeting.
All right, did everybody catch that?
Yes.
All right, and this is something that we are required to do as the FEMA does require us to take a look at this, and I think we were noted that I got an email saying that we were out of compliance, which is why we were going through this whole thing in the first place, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, this is somewhat housekeeping.
Yep.
An update, there is, as Chris mentioned, one or two items that gives us discretion as far as how we want the ordinance to apply within our jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
And used to be if something fell apart or burned down or whatever in a flood zone, that you couldn't build it back if it was more than half, whatever. What they're doing is that they're suggesting is that you can build back up to modern standards and in such a way that the flood can damage it a lot less or not at all.
Correct.
It stands up to flood better. And I think that's a better way of putting it. Some people have their whole lifetime invested in a cottage or something like that. And something unfortunate happens and all of a sudden they don't have one anymore. They just end up with an empty lot,
Mhm.
which can't be built on because it's in flood zone. So
Right.
this is the more equitable way to handle that, I believe, and I would be in favor of that.
Yeah, and I agree, and I've seen that too many times too, just in my real estate career about things that, people that have built properties 100 years ago that weren't in a floodplain or were in a floodplain and nobody really cared. And then all of a sudden something happened. Now they're in a floodplain and we couldn't do it. So I agree with Don in that sentiment. I'd be for this as well and setting it to a public hearing.
Chris, do they want action on these items or?
The only action tonight is to set that public hearing for your next planning commission meeting.
Oh, okay, all right. Then we'll just discuss that at the public hearing.
I agree. Any other comment from anybody? If not, we need to set that public hearing. And I would suggest, I believe that they want us to do that at the next planning commission meeting, which would be the 6th of May, as it stands right now. If somebody wants to set that public hearing.
Yeah, I understand we have till July, some date in July to get this all done, so we have to make sure that we stack everything as close as possible so that we actually meet the deadline.
Correct.
So I will move that we the planning commission hold a public hearing on this issue at their July 6th meeting, or
May 6th.
May 6th meeting.
Excellent.
I'll second it.
All right. We have a motion and a second then. I will call the question. All those in favor of setting that public hearing on May 6th?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, and next we have the continued review of the existing sign ordinance. Michelle, our clerk, has gone quite into depth with looking through this. And this was I guess a little bit of background. It was at the request of all of us. She conducted research into electronic signs to guide the conversation tonight, and she first spoke to sign vendors and installers regarding the specs of LED sign panels, and then secondly, investigated like communities with existing ordinances. I don't want to just read verbatim the request for commission consideration, but I think it's kind of important at this point. She felt there are two key takeaways from the research. First, LED sign panels are designed and constructed to direct light in only one direction, straight ahead. Panels are comprised of diodes, not individual light bulbs, and aren't meant to be aimed in a particular direction. I think there was some questioning as to if signs could be tilted and all those things and how that would affect the overall visibility. And then secondly, like municipalities have very similar sign ordinances to the village's existing ordinance. So she has some, if you look through your packet, she's got some good tables here. She talked to, it looks like 3 or 4 different sign vendors about what different options are. And it looks like she went through 4 different municipalities as well. I would welcome any discussion on any of her findings.
Mr. President, can I just add a comment quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, yeah, I'll echo that your clerk did a lot of great research on all of this. Just some takeaways, the ordinance that should be before you from our ordinance book, and I think there's some confusion at the last meeting, is the totality of our sign ordinance. So even though it looks like it's just a few pages, that is all we have in regards to signs in our current ordinance. And this seems to be pretty common for most municipalities. Every now and then they might add a little bit more detail here and there, but the gist of what our sign ordinance currently lays out is pretty common across the board for other municipalities. So the direction and questions tonight are, is what we currently have enough? And if not, then please, inform us on some takeaways and things that you'd like to see added to our ordinance, and then we'll bring it back in a full drafted version for you.
I'll make a comment just real quick. Unfortunately, it looks like some of these links don't work. I was trying to go over them earlier too with the different municipalities. And the links that are in the packet don't seem to pull up, at least not Grafton's.
There's another email that came on 3/19 that has similar information, but not as much as her original splash.
Right.
So if you wanted to touch base with that one, I think most of what you want to find is on that.
You happen to have it up?
Yeah, I've got it.
You want to read it or?
No. One of the things that she found checking the different ordinances on cities and villages in the area was that most of our ordinances for signs were pretty similar.
Mhm.
And I realized that the LED sign is like it's a new incarnation of signs. It's totally different from signs with light bulbs shining on them or floor lights or whatever. It's self-illuminated. And to try and fit that in with the different descriptions and limitations of our present ordinance might be confusing, and we would be restricting or instructing things to happen to regular signs that would fit only LED signs. So my suggestion would be to have a section there. Did you get it?
I have it. It's actually part of the packet. I didn't realize it was the same thing.
My suggestion would be to, within the sign ordinance, to add another group or line or number or something, and have the entire setup for the LED signs all in that one block, so that we wouldn't relate it to any of the other signs. One of the things we need to do is make sure that an LED sign is not aimed facing a residential area, because the light can't be controlled, it can't be directed, it can't be whatever, it just goes. Another thing would be that in most instances, we should probably require a two-sided sign, so that it's perpendicular to the road instead of facing the road and invading any properties or shops or windows or whatever on the other side of the road. And a few other odds and ends and whatever, we should work on getting that, having staff put some of those things together from suggestions that we might have. And then bring that to us at the next meeting for us to look at. Perhaps maybe a finished product, maybe we can tweak it a little and, because otherwise we're just going to confuse our sign ordinance. Because some things with light bulbs you can do and you can't do with LEDs because of the distance and the strength of the light and things of that nature. So that would be my suggestion.
I agree with your comments on there. I think the biggest issue we have is the light pollution
Yeah.
issue, and if we can separately make an ordinance just to specifically lay out that.
Yeah.
And then when muddy up the water, with all the existing stuff that we already have.
Yeah, nothing else is really strong enough to meet the same capabilities as the
Yes,
LED lights. And would just confuse the other ordinances.
I think the addition might be the way to go.
I would agree. I mean, I have a little experience with my current career in lighting and, you're really talking about with a lot of existing signs with uplighting, things like that. You're dealing with uplighting versus lighting that's shining out. And to try to group them all into the same type of ordinance isn't gonna make
It's a
sense.
different animal, right?
All right. Any other recommendations or questions about that? I mean, I don't think it's, at one point, you don't want to start microing it too much, right? Where there's a little ordinance for every single little thing you do, but on the other end of it, you don't want to have something that clearly we haven't had a lot of experience with. And there is, as everyone's saying, there are definitely things that need to be spoken for and people make sure that they do when they're doing these signs. So I would not be opposed to any of those recommendations as well.
Yeah, I think we could come up with an ordinance that, as we've done in the past, that other municipalities would use ours as a template.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I think that's
We're not, that would be the first time we've done something like that.
right. And let's be honest, how many times have we looked at other municipalities for what they're doing
Yeah.
to try to figure out what we're doing? So.
Every time, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, I would, if there's no more discussion, I would, move that we, refer this to staff for preparation of a LED section in the sign ordinance.
I think that'd be appropriate. Is that the general consensus?
Yes.
Okay. Chris, were you able to hear most of that? And I'm sure Michelle will be able to kind of take it from there.
Yep, I heard that, and luckily we are not alone. Those LED sign ordinances do exist, maybe not as often, but they are out there, so we can use that as a starting place, and we can go from there.
Sounds good. And if it's, if it's okay with everybody, I think let's have staff bring something to us for next meeting, right? We'll take a look at it, tweak it, whatever we need, and then hopefully, start the process of doing whatever we need to do to get that set. Probably most likely in June is what my thought would be.
Yeah, we're gonna be seeing a lot more of these in the future.
Oh, I agree. I think that's just
They're inexpensive comparatively for the job they do. They're
Hmm.
fantastic,
yeah.
so.
All right. Any other discussion on that? Great, thank you. Any items for future consideration? I just will remind this body that we do have a lot of things coming up. We're starting construction on the new business park expansion, so not only will we have buildings to design and look over in the coming future, but we'll also have, some architectural things that we're gonna need to do and some other planning for other things going on in the future here too. And I guess one other thing that I will say is Dan Welskopf, he has decided that he is going to be stepping down from the planning commission. So if anybody knows anybody that might be good, please throw their name my way. I've reached out to a couple of people. I did talk to Damon Ward today about considering it. And he said he might, so we'll just continue to look for able-bodied people that would love to participate in our discussions and help our village move forward. But again, if there's anybody that or you think would be good, please send their name my way. Anything else? If not, we're ready to adjourn.
To adjourn.
One second.
All right. I have a motion. I have a second. We'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're out of here at 7:23 PM. Thank you much.
As long as you don't hit me with it.